Hey, welcome back. Not going to be drinking bourbon today, but so we can call this a bonus video, I suppose, but it is going to be about bourbon because I'm going to attempt to bring you some valuable information that you may want to know. Don't want to talk down to anybody, so if you're a longtime bourbon drinker, this may not be the video for you, but if you want to know what my 5 budget bourbons are that I would definitely have on my shelf, stick around and we'll get into it right after this. All right, we're back. Listen, I know I promised this in the last video when I did the Buffalo Trace, and that got me thinking about doing something like this because Buffalo Trace typically, if you can find it, in certain areas you'll find it easily, but it's not that high of a price of bourbon, but it's really, really good. But there's other ones out there like it that are around 30 bucks. We'll just put it that way. So I'm going to do several of these videos. This one, initial one, is around $30. Now it could be, it's under 40. It could be 20s, depending on, and geographically prices vary. I'm just giving you a general deal here. So if some of these are more, a little bit pricier in your area, sorry, but this is what I consider budget bourbons here where I can get them. These are a step above what you would call like the regular old Jim Beam stuff, but these all are corked. So there's no, we're not going to twist the tops off on these. So, but these are all around 30 buck-ish range. The next video I'm going to do is moderately priced bourbons, and they're typically going to be just above $50, but still below like 65. And then I'll do a third video on ones that are above 65, but just right at or under $100. And then after that, I'll get into the unicorns and the very rares and hard to finds. And that may be a little bit later on because that's not what this channel is about. I'm not here to bring you flavor, nose and palate of bourbons that you're never going to go for or try or get in your lifetime. But, there's a reason some of those bourbons, some of them, cost as much as they do because they are very rare. They were a very spot-on production, maybe limited release, things like that, but they're very coveted. But we're not going to get into that. We're going to get into what you can go to your local store and get right now, probably. I mean, it varies. But typically you can find these everywhere. So let's start over here, and I'll tell you the reason why I picked this lineup. Sorry, Knob Creek, you were right there, but if I put 6 up, Knob Creek would be there for sure. Okay, but the reason I picked these is Elijah Craig. I call it the honeysuckle bourbon, and I'm only going to give you primary notes out of these things, but these are not complex deep bourbons. You're not going to get that. If you want complex depth, you're going to pay for it, right? So these every one of these has your basic bourbon notes, apple, vanilla, right? Some of them are oakier than others. Some of them have a little rye in them. Some of them have maybe hints of more barley in the mash bill, giving them a nuttier flavor. But this one is sweet honeysuckle, vanilla, apple. Pretty much. There's your primary notes. Larceny is coming in a little less sweet, a little more woodiness to it, a little more earthiness to it, and you're starting to get into more maybe a cooked apple instead of a fresh apple. This is your fresh apple over here. Maybe hints of pear as well. Well, it's up to you to find what notes you can detect out of there, but it still has the vanilla in it. So sweeter, not quite as sweet. Now we're back into more of what I call a nuttier type bourbon. So you're going to get some little wood notes out of here as well. This is a stand-up bourbon. Don't care for it quite as much as some of the others, but it still made the rank. Then we move into Four Roses Small Batch. Four Roses Small Batch is a blend of Four Roses bourbons. Now, if you want to step it up a notch, you can go to Four Roses, the single barrel. Single barrel. Now, that's a higher rye. But I'm sure there's some of that in here, but there's some others too. So you're getting hints of rye. You're going to get some of the rye spices. You're going to get some of the floral rye notes out of here, but not overwhelming on the nose or palate. And then I put Maker's 46 up because there's a lot of people that just like Maker's Mark. And typically, even if you go into a lower end bar, you can get Maker's. But they may or may not have Maker's 46. But Maker's Mark has a distinct bourbon notey flavor to it. I don't really care for it that much. I'll drink it. I mean, I love all bourbons. But except for the ones where they do the experimental aging and they try to beat nature. No, you can keep, that's not a bourbon. But, don't put it in a pressure cooker with wood and try to infuse. No, you're pulling out too many tannins. It's bitter. Don't like it. But the stuff that ages in the barrel appropriately, right humidity in warehouses, yes. Rick houses, I love it. So, Maker's 46 though is a finished bourbon. It's Maker's Mark, and they put it in and age it a little longer in barrels, because to be a bourbon, it has to be aged for 2 years at least, if not 4. 4 is your typical mark, but at least 2 years in new American oak barrels. Okay, that's to be called a bourbon. After that, you can finish the bourbon, and what they've done is they've taken and finished this in a barrel with some French oak staves. I don't know the process. I don't know if they put them in like just staves down in the barrel, or if they. So we had a little interruption there, but I'll get back into the Maker's 46. I'll try to edit this so you don't see it all, but they moved this to a barrel that has French oak staves. And again, I don't know the process. I don't know if they put it in the barrel or if they have a barrel specially made or whatever. I think they just put French oak staves into a barrel that's been aging in and let it age longer. But you do get a little more woodiness out of it. So this is a finished bourbon. This is a blended bourbon. This is a small batch, but gives you some of the nuttier notes out of it. This one is a small batch, I do believe. Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey, very special small batch, So anyway, you're getting that, and then Elijah Craig is small batch. So these are mash bills. This is a blend. This is a finished bourbon. These 5 right here, I think if you put these on your shelf and someone comes over, now if they're a bourbon snob, I can't vouch for it, but they're going to find one out of these that they can tolerate for the night, and even enjoy if they allow themselves to. I do enjoy Elijah Craig. I enjoy every one of these. This one, to me right now, I don't know where the price is going to go on it, but I think this is underpriced. So the value on this table right now, I think, is Four Roses Small Batch. But these are all great standbys. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap. Before I forget, I had 2 on the list that are harder to find depending on where you are. Certain parts geographically, you can get your hands on these a little more. Some, it may be a little harder to find. Here, they're typically really hard to find. You get lucky. They don't even put them on the shelf. They keep them behind the counter. You have to know to ask for them. The first one, and it is around this price range, typically. Now, depending on where you live, if you live out in California, they will jack the prices up or wherever. I'm not going to pick on California. I've seen it in other places as well. But if you can get your hands on Buffalo Trace, great basic bourbon. And then also in the Buffalo Trace line is W.L. Weller Special Reserve. You can actually buy a bigger than the 750 milliliter for the same price, if you find it in the right spot. But it does have a screw off top, the W.L. Weller Special Reserve. but don't let that be the judge. With Buffalo Trace, I call it the backwoods bourbon. It's a little raw, a little harsher, but it's got a little bite to it, but it's not bad. And then the W.L. Weller, I call it the State Fair bourbon because it reminds me of caramel apples and candy apples. It's pretty sweet. So if you can get those, those would look beautifully next to these on a budget. And yeah, again, if you have those, people are probably going to gravitate to the W.L. Weller and the Buffalo Trace anyway. But hey, just these 5, you're good to go. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. As always, please like and subscribe. Hit that bell down there for notifications, and I promise I'll keep bringing you these videos.